Reese. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your hosting on Archery Talk 101, and we have Noel Evans on the line from Final Descent Outdoors. We're going to talk to him about that a little bit and what he's doing in archery, and we're just going to have a good old time. So, Noel, how about if you introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
All right, we'll do that. Well, I appreciate first of all you having me on, and yeah, I'm with Final Descent Outdoors. We were the longest running TV show on the Pursuit Channel for 13 seasons. We just recently went straight to streaming the last two seasons, so that's been a blessing in my life to be a part of that team. Some really great people, and I've been in archery for 29 years now, and been in the hunting industry over 20 years between guiding, working with companies and marketing, and then also on the TV side of things. So archery's been a big part of my life for a long time now. Since my first daughter was born, I got a bow right after she was born, and I tell you what, it turned my thinking around as far as kind of got to where hunting was just, yeah, I enjoy doing it because I go with family members, but just didn't have that drive. But buddy of mine turned me on to archery, and I tell you what, it's now my wife says that it's more important than anything else in the world, which is not true, but you know how wives are. They think they think because you
Yeah,
spend so much time with it
yeah,
that it is. But anyway, yeah, so love that. Work with a bunch of different companies. You know, obviously the TV show has a ton by itself, but I work with some individual companies that on a personal level, and Ethics Archery is one of them, which we actually work with the TV show as well. But I run their social media for them and help them with marketing, and along with Halo Knock, Double Take Archery. They make a Halo Knock, the lighted knock that's on the market now. Stu, the owner of that, used to be the owner of Nocturnal, the inventor and owner of Nocturnal. Then he sold it. Waited 5 years for him for his non-compete to come out, and then he came out with the Halo Knock. Originally, it was Glory Knock, and then he redesigned it and named it the Halo Knock. So those are the two companies that I'm really in with, helping them as far as their marketing and stuff like that goes. But some great companies that we work with for sure.
yeah. And I'll put a link to those places you talked about in the descriptions. Makes it easier
Mm,
for people to find them,
appreciate
and
that.
it just makes you when we talk about something, it's like, what did they say? What did they say? And it's like I'll just put a link in there and it makes it easier for you.
Yeah, there you go.
So I've got well, let's talk about some about ethics archery. I can
Okay,
actually share my screen and we can um, talk about that. Here's some things we already talked about up here, but ethics archery. Maybe we talk about this place and the site and kind of go over.
absolutely. If you look up there at the top where it says Home Shop and then Arrow Compatibility Wizard, anybody can go and click on that, and it doesn't just have to be for what we're selling on the website, but if you scroll down, you can see that we have it's over 32 different arrow brands with 1,100 different models. And actually, I think we've added a couple since we had those numbers, but you can go in and you can look at Victor, you can look at Black Eagle, you can look at Kool-Aid, which is a arrow partnership of mine. Um, and go in there and it'll tell you, you know, go and put it in your spine. It tells you, you know, obviously the ID of the arrow and then the OD of the arrow. So um, whatever component you want, you go in there, you click on the arrow of your what you have, you click on all of those down at the bottom,
No, we can
click
just
go,
start.
and it'll take you to and show you every component that we offer for that particular arrow. So that's a really cool feature that we have.
This is actually what I shoot. Because as a dealer, a PSC dealer, and um,
Well, it's not showing any components for it.
yeah,
The
well,
one arrow you pick is the one that is. I'll have to get with Deb and see if she can figure out, why that's not there. But
well, they don't make it anymore. PSC dropped
oh,
their
okay.
arrow line, so that's not surprising. Um,
I'm surprised we still
it,
have it in there then.
yeah. Well, and I just picked the Pro in here. Another good one here that where'd they go? A Gold Tip's been around for a long time, and now
Yes.
you can see all the like the XT Hunter, and they've
Hmm.
got. Oh, the Nugent arrows or
Yeah, so
yeah.
I mean it's insane how much information is in that little
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Just listing all of them in here is pretty good.
yeah. And even if you're not looking to go in and buy components from us, I mean just going in and looking through there just to find out, if you're looking for knock sizes or whatever it has, it's just a really good tool to go through and even if you're just wanting to compare arrows, obviously we don't have GPI on there,
Yeah.
but it does tell you outside dimensions and everything else.
But then the Cabela's brand. I used to work for there for a little while after I closed my shop.
Oh yeah.
I worked at Bass Pro first, and then I worked at Cabela's, and then of course Bass Pro bought Cabela's after I was there. But um, like this is kind of a pretty common one amongst Cabela's arrows. And here's the 400 and 300. Like that's the stiffer spine. Yeah, PNC
Yeah.
did theirs different. It's at 100, 200, 300, 400. The higher number is the stiffer spine. I think everybody else does it the opposite direction because they're based on the deflection.
Yes, sir. So there's all kind of, like the down in the bottom right-hand corner, the spinning points for targets, which is pretty cool to have those spinning targets. You once you glue those in, it just helps with it's. We have it for the target side too, but I really like it for if you're using a big fixed blade broadhead. You know,
Yeah.
you can go in there, and that broadhead's gonna not put as much drag on the arrow, so you're picking up speed, and also it's good. You're gonna help with the arrow flight.
Now, is this an insert you put in that allows the broadhead to spin or
No, well, that's actually
or
if that's actually the fill point for
yeah.
target people who want to use them. But if you scroll up a little bit, there's probably the let's see here. There's probably one that just says spinning insert. I would imagine, unless that we don't have it for
Their
that
adjustable
size.
spinning insert.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So once you put that in, you can screw in any broadhead you want, fill tip, whatever it is, and so basically the insert. Yeah, there you can see it pretty good there. It's the part that has the little grooves on it right there by where your cursor is.
Yeah.
That glues onto the arrow. Then everything inside of that and where your broadhead is screwed into, everything spins. So um, as that arrow is flying, if it's you're getting a lot of wind drag or whatever, that broadhead is not causing that arrow to fly erratic as much because it's actually able to spin separate from the actual arrow.
No, that's an interesting concept. That's one of the things when you have fixed blades that you got wings up front, wings in back, and they're both trying to control the arrow. And the faster you send your arrow, the more the broadhead's affecting the flight. Um, that's why fixed blades, once you get them tuned, if you try and go too fast, so it's real hard. So I would think that would make um, actually tuning the broadheads kind of a mute point.
Oh yeah, they're amazing, especially on those big wide, you know, cutting fixed blade broadheads.
Well, and I use a Muzzy, and what I do is I align it's a three-bladed one. I line the blades up with the fletching, and
Hmm.
then um, I have what they call it's a U-bar. It's a cone-shaped washer and a little rubber O-ring that you put on. And then you can tweak it a little bit, tighten it up, loosen it up a little bit, and then you can direct where the impact of that broadhead is. So I'm
Yes, sir.
shooting at 20 yards. I can adjust those broadheads so all my broadheads hitting the X-ring.
Hmm.
And because I have to adjust them because the interference between the broadheads and the fletching. Now this I'm thinking that might eliminate the need of trying to tune that broadhead in there. And like the aluminum arrows, we could just heat the hot melt glue up and turn them a little bit tighter until we get them lined up. Well, if carbons are glued in permanently, you can't do that. So how do you adjust the broadhead without something like that you can squash? And then you have to worry about your broadhead moving, getting in alignment. So I always put like a whiteout or something on it so I could see as long as those are lined up, I knew a broadhead was tuned.
Yep,
And that
exactly.
looks like that could be a real good option to uh, eliminate that for those of us that still like to shoot fixed blades.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I remember back in the day too of putting rubber bands, not rubber bands, but the rubber grommets in there, like that would hold in mechanical broadheads. Put those
Yeah,
on there, and that way you could adjust it just to tweak it a little bit here or there too. Back in the old days, trying to get those
yeah.
broadheads tuned right.
Now that's actually a pretty good little deal there.
Yeah.
Uh,
One of the things that we just came out with is the countersink system, and I actually have some here, but it's you may not be able to see it on the.
would it be on countersink? What is it? Countersink and
Yeah, you
the
can. It might be. Let's see if there's. It's hard for me to
outsert.
see outsert system. It's kind of like our outsert system there at the top, but this is might not have them for that particular
This is an
arrow.
adjustable direct drawn
Yeah, no,
broadhead.
that's not it. If you
Outsert.
go up, go back up to the top,
Okay.
and if you go over to shop and then go down, you should see countersink.
Countersink inserts. Okay.
Yes, there you go. So if you can zoom in on one of those, you can see that there's an actual shelf on the post. Yeah, right there where your cursor is. See how
Yeah.
it comes down, notches down a little bit on the post, and then on the on the sleeve that's to the right there, it actually has a groove that's inside, so it kind of clicks together like I don't want to say Lincoln log, but what's the other one I'm looking for? The
Legos.
Legos. There you go. So they don't actually you don't actually hear a click, but when you put that in there and you glue it together, and the reason why we came out with that is, we have an outsert system, which is a sleeve that goes over the carbon, so
Right.
you're increasing your durability at the end of the carbon arrow, and then the sleeve like this, like you're at there, actually goes in. And so we started looking at, angled impacts, hard angled impacts. And so that's why we came out with the countersink system, because if you go in and you have your sleeve and your insert itself connected some way, then those angled impacts are not going to be able to do any damage, which the outsert system is still extremely tough. But
Yeah.
we had, I believe it was T-Bone actually came up with this and kind of was like, hey, what about doing something that's going to be better on an angled impact? And so that's what we came out with and this is actually what I'm running now is these countersinks.
So you put these, you have your outsert and these go inside the outsert then? Is that
Yeah, well, the outsert is down below your cursor there. I wish
okay?
thought we had some pictures. I may be able to email you a picture real quick and you can pull it up. But yeah, if we showed that sideways, you can see the inside of that sleeve has a little groove in there um, for the insert to actually slip down inside there.
Yeah, you can see
Kind of see
something
it
in
there
it.
a little bit, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not a real good angle, but you can see it's kind of got a little pattern to it.
Yeah,
On the little grooves in here, you can kind of see on the picture. Those that are listening, you really can't see, but um, there's kind of lines that reflecting light with a little dark line in between them, and that looks like that's where that groove, and that fits inside of the outserts.
yes, sir. I don't know if you can let's see here. I think we just had a post a couple of days ago.
On your
Uh,
Facebook.
yeah, on Facebook. I'm trying to find it. Okay, yeah. So if you go back on our that's final descent. If you go to ethics,
Oh, ethics. Okay.
yeah, the ethics Facebook page.
Oh, I don't think I've been onto that one yet.
Oh, okay.
So let's
And if you go back on July 29th, there's a post there with a outsert system on with a red background. And if you can zoom in on that sleeve, you can kind of see how it, yeah, keep going
have to put it.
down.
That looks
more.
like an arrow with the outsert and then
Yeah,
that setup
yeah,
there.
yeah. That's actually it has a stainless steel and aluminum combo to reach a certain uh, weight that we were trying to get. That was actually an arrow I hunted with last year. A little bit right there, that one right there. So if you see on the
Okay.
top right hand corner how that sleeve is actually at a standing up. So if you zoom in on that, you can actually see the groove that's inside the sleeve.
Yeah.
So yeah, that paints a good picture of how those things connect together.
Oh yeah, there's the two pieces separate and as I'm parting to put them together. And then
Yep.
that's glued on the outside of the shaft.
Yes, sir. Yep. And then obviously you put glue in between those two as well, and it just makes an extremely durable system. So, and a lot
Yeah.
of our stuff is adjustable. So if you go in and we have it little lines in on the those particular ones don't right there, but they'll have little grooves in the post itself, and you can go in and take out 10 grains or aluminum maybe 5 grains for every cut, and so you can adjust it from 200 to 100, whatever that component is allows you to do.
Whatever you need to get your weight the same.
Yeah,
I,
so some stainless, aluminum, and then we just got into the TI stuff, the titanium stuff as well here recently. Which the
yeah,
titanium stuff, even though it's expensive, man, it really does help with, back in the day where it was the heavy arrow guys, they wanted everything heavy, and nowadays people kind of going back to a little bit lighter setup, and people want more speed, and that titanium really helps because you can get the durability um, of a stainless steel system, but with the weight of something lighter like an aluminum system. So we have a lot of people uh, going to the TI now, which is kind of crazy because you think about how much Arrow already is, and you go and you spend money on titanium, but it's it's you get this is actually for the people who really want to dig in and get their arrow exactly the way they want it, So
yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff out there you can tweak around with. I know back in aluminum days, I weighed all my shafts, I fletched them all, I weighed all my shafts, put the nocks in, and they were double X 78, so they had the unibushing in there. And then I weighed all my tips because I used to get them in 100 bags when I had to store. And I weighed the arrows, I weighed the tips, and I weighed the inserts. And I'm filing the back of the inserts. There's a little extra piece on it, filing it to get all the weight. So I had a dozen arrows. They were no less than a half a grain from one end to the other.
hmm
So all of them were basically the exact same weight. And, you know, I had them, exact same weight. So I figured, I'm thinking in my engineering mind, I'm figuring if they all weigh the same, being launched out of the same bow at the same draw length, they should all fly exactly the same. So I should have the drop should be exactly the same no matter the snow. That takes all the mechanical stuff out. So it's just how good can I shoot them? And I spent, quite a bit of time on it. Back then it was like $36 a dozen for a dozen aluminum arrows. And I figured I'm going to charge you at least that just to do that kind of work. Of course,
hmm
that was 25 years ago. And, you know,
Yeah.
then, carbon arrows weren't much more than that anyway. Now they're
Well,
$100 more plus
oh,
each,
some of
or,
them are insane. Those
two to
UVs,
300. Yeah.
and they're
And I'm glad when I had my store, I had a whole bunch of the Comp Pros when I closed my store, and um, I didn't sell them. I kept them. So I have plenty of Comp Pros because I figure I'm going to shoot the straightest arrow I can when I'm hunting, because if I have my arrow can't grip more than a 3 inch group, I'm not going to hold a 3 inch group on it because the arrow's not any more accurate than that. Now I have to judge yardage and make sure I'm right on that and execute the shot. So now then I might take this 3 inch arrow best group. Now I've got a 6 or an 8 inch group because I've got yardage judging difference in there. And you know, the difference between a 3 thousandths and 1 thousandths group is on a 5 spot, you hold it in the white or you hold it in the X. That's the difference between this straightness. So
Yeah,
I'm always one of those for um, straightest arrow we can.
there you go. And that's one good thing about ethics too is that we don't charge upgrade for match grade equipment. Everything that we send out is match grade. Obviously the ones that are adjustable, if you cut them, I mean, it might vary a little bit. But
Right.
every time I've ever cut one and weighed them, it's always been the same. Like you said, you might have to take a little bit off. But whenever I cut mine, I go through and I take the burrs off anyway, and they're usually
Yeah.
right there. But you're not going to have any difference. I mean, they're match grade, American made, veteran owned, and we take pride in what we do there.
Yeah. That's
And
that's the
all of our
thing.
all of our field points are going to be exactly dead on.
And that's what I found. When I have my store, I buy them in 100 count bags, and they a 100 grain might run from 95 to 105 in that same
Hmm.
bag. So you go through find them. So you don't have any matched groups. You have to hunt through them. And now, if you buy them in packages already packaged up, they're fairly close, like the muzzies. The 100 grain muzzy, that whole package of six might be 103, but the whole package is the same. Next package might be 97. So if you buy two packages, you're going to have a variation. And at 20 yards, shooting at a deer, um,
Yeah.
3 grains makes no difference at all.
No. No, it does not.
Not in hunting distances. Um, Now, if you're trying to shoot longer range, now then that's going to come into play. But you know, I can't see the deer out that far. I'm not going to shoot at a deer past 40 yards anyway. Never have.
Yeah, I agree
My
with you.
first year was 40, but most of the rest of them have been 10, 15, 5.
Yeah, you see, these people really, I mean, I like to shoot long as well, but as far as hunting goes, I want them in close,
Right.
if, so you get them out there at 25, that's great. But man, hey, if it's at 13, man, it just, not that it makes it easier on the shot itself, which obviously it does, but it's cool to me just to say, man, I had him at 13 yards. And the closest deer I've ever shot was at 6, you know. He came in and actually hit his horns on my ladder stand, and it was, ding, 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 and it didn't scare him at all. And as soon as he turned, I let it go. And so, it's just cool to me to get them in closer if possible.
Yeah, I've had some where I actually seen the hair change colors when the broadhead went through the hair.
Yeah, that's That's
Yeah.
so cool. There's a lot of people talk about, shooting them at 80, 90, 100 yards, and that's great. But the reason I got out of gun hunting and into archery hunting was to get that challenge of getting them in close. So I can see how it's cool to shoot one that far, but I'm like you, I've never shot one over 40 yards myself. So I shot hogs that further than that, but not deer.
Yeah, I set up for a 20-yard shot, but those deer, they just don't read the script. They come in closer.
Hmm.
I've had them like you walk underneath my tree stand and right in front of them is like you can't shoot that close because you're trying to shoot straight down, and that's not a
Yeah.
good shot. And
You're
and
like, you're like, come on, buddy, couple more yards, just move out, turn left.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And then they come in from where you can't shoot them, walk into your tree stand and go behind your tree.
Hmm.
And you can't shoot them anyway. So, but it's nice to get up close and get them closer shots and see. And it takes a lot more hunting to get in close like that.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and
When you get so close, you can hear them breathing, or feel their breath, which I did. I had one at 3 yards one time, and I'd already shot my bucks. So all I had was doe tags at the end of the year. and I sat down on the ground, made a little makeshift ground blind, and this doe came up, and I'm assuming she smelled me because she came up and stuck her head kind of through the little shooting hole I had, and it was cold, and I could feel her warm breath hitting me in the face. She was at 3 yards, and then she just turned and walked off, never spooked, but I mean, what a cool encounter,
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that would have been a really big buck, and that would have been just insane. So,
Yeah.
but and it's funny because I always say the big she wasn't a mature buck, I mean a mature doe, but mature does to me a lot of times are way more um, smarter than a mature buck. Just I don't know what it is about them. I'm sure you've experienced everybody you talk
Yeah.
to. They're like, we had one that I went on a guided trip one time here in Texas, and this guy was like, "Man, there's this one doe over here, and nobody can shoot her." And of course, I'm all sticking my chest out. Man, let me go over. I'll take care of this. And they're like, "Dude, They told me they're like, "Hey, when you put your arrow on her, if you get drawn on her, put the arrow about a foot below her." And I'm like, "No way, man! Not as fast as I'm shooting." Sure enough, man, I went over there. I got the full draw on her. She ducked and rolled away from the arrow, and I'm just like, "Wow." And as far as I know, nobody ever killed her. You know, just insane. She came out and was snorting and moving around, and then she finally came around the backside. That afternoon, we made a makeshift blind, and that's how I would actually get drawn on her. But ducked and rolled, and I'm just like, I should have listened to you and went a foot under because I dang sure went over her back.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
sometimes
funny
your
how that
guides,
happens.
you got to listen to your guides sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. But cool experiences though,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Sitting in a tree stand, you get to see stuff as a bow hunter that nobody gets to see. Unless you're a wildlife photographer and you're sitting in a tree stand waiting for them. But a lot of those guys aren't sitting because they're out trying to find them. And,
Hmm.
we sit and wait for them to come. It's, basically we're a sniper.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about aluminum arrows a while ago, and I remember back when I first started bow hunting, back in what 96, whatever it was, and I had some does coming in, and the acorns were falling everywhere, and so I found this little acorn mott and put a tree stand up. I was 26 feet in the air, and anyway, I'm sitting there and finally had three does coming in, and I'm watching them all excited, and they get, I don't know, probably about 15 yards from me, and I'm waiting for a shot opportunity, and all of a sudden, an arrow, acorn falls and hits that aluminum arrow, makes that ding noise, and I tell you what, they came out of their skin. But it's funny to think about those old memories with aluminum arrows. We used to call them Lincoln logs, um, but it's funny that I mean they came complete. They probably went to the next county, but it was so
Yeah.
quiet in that acorn hitting that aluminum arrow. Good times,
Yeah.
man.
And I shot logs, I shot 25-12s. So those were a big fat shaft.
Yeah, I think these are 2713 East and 2713s, if I remember correctly. I still got
Yeah.
some in the garage, but
Yeah, those were even a little bit wider.
hmm they were. Yeah, and back then, everybody's trying to get a little bit faster, and there wasn't a whole lot you could do, overdraws, and you still hear Tim Gillingham talking about overdraws. But
Yeah.
he's got such a long draw length. I think he's what 33 inches on his draw length. So
Yeah. And the bows nowadays don't have enough, brace height to put an overdraw on.
yeah.
They're just they're not enough there. But the older ones, you could put overdraws on them, and I had my one PSE had a little bit of an overdraw on it. It wasn't massive, but it was still enough. And the rest nowadays are so much easier to adjust. This one of those that had the two prongs on it.
Hmm.
In order to adjust the inside one, you had to take the outside one off and take the screw out, pull the pin out, adjust the inside one, and then put the other one back in and put that one back in and adjust it. And um, I got them all set when I sold the bow when I had in my store. I told the guy, I says, do not change arrows unless you're going to change the rest. Because this is rest is set up for shooting 25-12s. Only shoot 25-12s. It shoots perfectly. If you change arrows, change rests because at that time there was much better rest out than that one. But
Yeah.
that one was from 90s era.
Yeah. So which PSE are you shooting now?
I'm shooting the Carrera is my hunting bow.
Hmm.
It's 2001 and a 2002, I think it is, a 2003. Um, what is it, Scorpion?
Gotcha.
And it's a nice bow. Um, I've got those two PSEs. My recurve's a PSE. I've got a smaller 25-pound left-handed, which is a PSE. And when I was working at Bass Pro, one of the things we did, um, or when I was at Bass Pro, when I was at Cabela's, um, John and they'd bring bows in 4-foot cubes of return bows across the whole Cabela's company. They'd send them to us, and we'd go through them and we'd fix them all up. And we get bows come back that had various things wrong. And I bought a couple of them. It was a bear. It was in a snow camel. I don't remember the model number because I made a new string for it, fixed up the stuff that was wrong with it, and it sits in my safe downstairs. I never set it up. You know, um, I got it ready to go and just never did anything with it. And I, shooting my PSEs and, um, you know, that's what I'm shooting. So I do have one different one, but
Yeah. What was that
I do
first
have
one you said?
the Carrera.
Correct. Yeah. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, that bow it was a screamer, wasn't it?
He's rated
Wasn't
at
it a really
300,
fast bow?
320 feet per second is what it's
Yeah.
rated at. This is in
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah. I know. That's what I'm saying. Back then, that was screaming.
Yeah. And I got routinely, I got about 270, 275. Um, One, I wasn't shooting a 30-inch draw length. I was shooting 29 and a half.
Yeah.
Um,
You're shooting real life scenario
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I was actually shooting 29 at the time I moved down to 29 from 29 and a half. My first bow was 32-inch draw length. And I went down to NFA had a shooter school and instructor school, and I went down for that. And they said, you're 29 and a half inch draw length. This is a Friday at the first course. And the next one's Saturday night and Sunday. And it says, before the next class on Saturday, your bow has to be 29 and a half. There's no reason to come back because you can't teach the technique back. You can't shoot back tension with you're already 2.5 inches too long because there's no back to go.
Hmm.
And so I run around, I got it down to 29 and a half, and then now I shoot 29 because that extra half inch allows me to not hit my arm when I'm wearing big heavy coats. Here in Nebraska, we have to wear heavy coats in the winter
Yeah.
time.
There you go.
Um, Once in a while in Texas you do, but generally not.
No, no.
But
It's very seldom that I have to put on too much. So,
yeah,
especially,
and
because I hunt down in South Texas. So
oh
it's,
yeah,
uh, it's, if we get, if we get below, you know, 20 there, it's, it's crazy to even think of that about that down there. So
yeah, I
some places in North Texas, that I hunt. Yeah. I mean, it's, the coldest I've ever killed a deer was 17 degrees. And, Uh, I couldn't wait to get out of the stand when after I shot him. I was afraid that he could hear the bones creaking as I was coming to full draw because everything was so frozen. But back then I was probably 30, so it wasn't that bad. But it seemed like it at the time for sure.
yeah, yeah. I know they get snow in Texas. So when I was in the Air Force in the 70s, I think it was 75. We had snow on Christmas Eve
Hmm.
in Abilene, Texas. Now, by 10 o'clock next day, it was all gone,
Yeah,
but it did snow.
yeah. I
And
remember a
then,
year where we had it on Christmas Eve, but I think I was a teenager, so it was years and years ago.
yeah. And then there's a few times I made some trips down to Austin, Texas. And I think it was the second time or third time, one of the times I was driving through snow to get there. And of course, from Nebraska, I had my winter clothes with me, my winter coat, because, in that time of year, I think it was February or something like that, January, February. We're going to have cold weather up here. And it was so cold down there. One of the events was outside, and they had these big old heaters up and put the tarps down on the pavilion and big old heaters going. And, you know, I was okay because I had my winter coat on. But
Yeah.
some of them come from Texas didn't have anything that warm. So they're covered up with blankets and It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just normal for me.
The year COVID was so 2020, I had some friends of mine that have a TV show up in Canada, and they came down and hog hunted with me, and we had a little cold front move through, and the guy was like, "Man, this is cold. It's freezing." Yeah, and what it was is he's not used to. I mean, the temperature wasn't that bad because I think it was like 36 or something, but the our humidity is so high down here that
Oh,
it
yeah.
just he wasn't used to it. He was shocked at how he was cold there, and but it's just completely different, you know. So
Yeah.
when I bear hunted in Canada, it was like, man, this yeah, it's nice, but it's not like overwhelming, you know, like you would think it would be. Actually, I've never hunted there in the winter, so I don't know. I'm sure it kind of, and I know Nebraska gets like that as well because I got
Yeah.
some friends of mine they hunt Nebraska every year and talk about how cold it can get.
Yeah, it can get pretty cold. I've been sitting on my tree stand, my bow hanging up with my arrow on it, all ready to go, and I'm watching frost form on my bow as the sun's starting to come. Frost is forming on my bow.
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't think I've ever had that, but Brad Clay, the host of our show, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, he posted a picture and there was frost like that all over his arrow, you know, where it was just, you know, just I guess it's a thin layer of, you know, frost that was
Yeah.
over his arrow. And it's a pretty cool picture that he took, you know, but, I'm like, yeah, it's funny being a bow hunter and being down here in South Texas and, like year before last, I was going to go to Ohio on a hunt, and the guy was like, "Yeah, make sure you bring plenty of warm clothes because you're not used to the type of weather we have up here." Ended up not being able to go, uh, but one of these years I'm going to have to take advantage of some of these out of state hunts that are up there and just go see if I can really handle it because I love the cold, you know, especially for somebody from South Texas. It's like right now, you know, we've had a little cool front come through, and I'm like, man, this is my time of year, you know, hurry up and get here. But yeah, those 7 degree and below zero type stuff, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Little South
it's
Texas boy might not be able to handle that, but
yeah, that the weather can definitely play a factor in how you shoot, how your equipment works, and between hunting season when it's cold to 3D season when it's hot. I've been out there, one 3D I went to, and I had, well, one of these big bottles, and I had a pouch on the side of my 3D rig that was fairly thick, so it was kind of insulated, and it was frozen. For I knew it was going to be hot that day, in the 90s or better, and so the whole thing was frozen. So as it's melting, I'm drinking it, and I ended up staying the whole day, but I'm filling up with cold water, and you're drinking and drinking, and your strings are going to change. Your limbs are going to change. Everything else is changed because everything gets cold, it gets stiff. And then you get in wintertime and now you're stiff and you go to pull your bow back and can't pull it back because everything's cold and froze, including you.
yeah, it's crazy how that works. You know, you think about these strings and what they go through. Especially it's like down here, I won't leave a bow inside my truck just because, you know, it can get 150 degrees in a heartbeat,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, inside the vehicle. And but that's the worst thing you can do on a string set. You know, I'm using Bloodline the last I guess 4 or 5 years, and I don't have to worry about stretch that much, but I still don't want to, you know, put it in harsh conditions where it's, you know, that hot. So
Well, now that you start having trouble with your limbs delaminating
yeah.
because if you get so hot, like you say, you leave it in there, you don't even think about it. You just go in, and next thing you know, you're gone for a while, and the sun is beating in there, and it's not in a case. It's sitting there, and the sun's beating down on your limbs, and you come back out, and your limbs are broke.
Hmm.
Because it's just so hot, loosen the glue up. Um, it's you can do the same thing on your arrow shafts.
Yeah.
When depending on what you're cleaning them with.
Hmm.
I had a guy I knew that he would clean his arrows with acetone. Well, acetone, you use too much of it, and you're going to start eating the glue that holds carbon fibers together. And he started having trouble with it, and he sent him in, and then next thing I know, they figured it's like he's cleaning him with, he was cleaning him with acetone. That's too harsh of a chemical, for that.
Hmm.
You could probably get by with it on aluminum arrow,
Hmm.
but you're going to start taking that dipping off of it. Um, we used to get the old game getters. They were green, and we'd shoot them so much the front 6 inches or so of the arrow was just aluminum. We'd wore all the coating off of it. That's how much we'd shoot them. With the carbon fibers, you start putting an acid on there. I use denatured alcohol. Well,
Yeah.
one, it doesn't have the smell in it, but it's not a harsh chemical that's going to take and affect them. And I've never had any trouble. Wipe the shaft down with the denatured alcohol and let it dry, of course, before you glue your fletching on. And
Yeah.
you don't have any trouble when you do it that way. Have them nice and clean because you get oils and stuff on them and dirt and
Yeah.
kind of a little pro tip. Clean your arrows off before you refletch them.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I mean, and even when you're inserting or putting in inserts, any kind of component like
Yeah,
that, I had a guy that was telling me that every time that, he'd shoot into a target, he would lose his. I'm like, okay, well, what are you using? How are you installing your inserts? And he was like, "Oh, I'm cutting arrow and I'm doing this. I'm squaring it off and I'm putting glue on it and I'm shoving it in." And I'm like, "Ooh, no, you got to go through there and take some Q-tips and clean the inside out.
yeah,
First of all, you need to go in and rough it up with something. And even if it's just, taking some sandpaper and rolling it up. Most of the time I use a 22 bristle brush, for
yeah.
cleaning 22s and go in there and then after that go in there with some denatured alcohol or some 90% alcohol, something to clean all that until you get out to where it's not black anymore. And so that's clean. And also in your components, I go through, and probably don't have to do this, but I go through all my components and I take some sandpaper and I rough it up a little bit. Then I clean it before I glue it in. And that way everything has a little bit of, you're sketching it a little bit and then you're cleaning it and you're making sure there's no oils on it and all that stuff. And I guarantee you're not going to pull it out, you know?
Right. And that's they have a tool, when it's doing all the PSE shafts, they have a tool designed to rough up the inside of it,
Hmm.
a special tool for it. And I was just going to say, you mentioned it already that, 22 caliber cleaning rods work. And then if you have a little skinnier one, use the 17 caliber one.
Yeah.
Use that brush in there just to scrape it up or something. And then, like you said, make sure it's nice and clean and you don't have to worry about it. And aluminum will get a little oxidation layer on it. And for those knowing about when you're welding aluminum, it has to be perfectly clean, and you can't touch it with anything that's been used with anything else. It has to be, perfectly clean, and then you can weld on aluminum with the proper welder, of course.
Yeah.
Same thing with there. You've got an aluminum and carbon. The two things that don't want to go together. So, scuffing up the little bit of it, you even take, like a 4/0 steel wool and just turn that part of that insert in there just to scuff it up or something to get some grooves in it. And, if you have sandpaper, just pull it in and out so the grooves go lengthwise. And then your glue will actually stay in there a little better. And you get that clean, like you said, clean that up really good. And, your points don't come out.
Yeah. When it comes out of the
And
machine, it's nice and, clean and smooth. And so you just scuff it up a little bit, clean it up, put it in there.
Anything you're gluing together has two completely smooth surfaces don't glue together.
Exactly.
So you got to scuff them up a little bit. So a couple little pro tips on building arrows, right?
Yep,
You got to make
exactly.
sure it's got a surface prepared to be glued and clean.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yep. And you have to wipe down arrow too before you put fletching on, so that's
Always do.
not just on the components, but you know,
Well, and on uh, fletching, plastic ones, I used to wipe all them down as well because there's oils on them.
yeah, I do
I
as
even
well.
wipe down the feathers. I've used feathers since the 60s and I still use feathers. I'm just not fond of veins. I don't hunt in the rain very much, so I don't worry about that. But I even take the quill on the feather and rub it down with alcohol because that makes that quill because when you cut it, and they burn it or however they're cutting it, it kind of lays all the fibers down. So I'm wetting with alcohol, which makes them stand up. It gives me something for the glue to hold on to.
Yeah, no doubt. I use the Silent Night veins. So I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're real skinny veins, so you have to make sure that everything is really clean on them. But it's the most durable vein on the market, to me. But if you don't make sure everything's clean, you can have one fall off on you. If it is something, obviously goes to a target or something.
Right,
But those things are veins these days are insane. You hear the people wanting hard veins, you hear people wanting soft veins, and it's just all preference, to
right.
me. The Silent Night veins, though, we did a test at the ranch one time, and my buddy's son was shooting at 100 yards. And I was like, man, we were about 50 yards from where he was, so kind of halfway in between him and the target. And I was like, it's amazing how loud his arrows are. Let me go give him one of mine. And it was like half the noise, and it makes a difference, to me as far as noise goes. But it just depends. If you're shooting that far, it does. If you're shooting 20 yards, who cares? It's not gonna, animal's not gonna move fast enough. So on something like that, but it's just amazing the difference between the types of veins these days. And, you know, I'm like you
Yeah,
though, the old school stuff is still so neat to see.
yeah, there's just so many different options, and rightfully so. Each archer is going to want something different. What works for them. What works for me may or may not work for you.
Hmm.
It's just like my shooting technique when I'm teaching archery, because I've had almost 20 years of martial arts, and when I learn it, and then so I'm combining a lot of that into how I shoot. I'm going to teach you exactly how I shoot, and then we're going to modify what don't work for you. Because it may not work for you. Each person's different. Someone is shooting, with back tension, that arm just flies back. Me, it comes back, but my arm doesn't fly back. I just I don't know why it doesn't, but it doesn't. And others will come back and touch their shoulder. Well, if I force my thumb down, I can touch my shoulder, but I can't, it won't bend there. It completely misses it. Other people can do that. Like you look at somebody's thumbs, mine goes straight. Some of them curve back.
Hmm.
Our bodies are all different. And that's, as an instructor, that's what you need to look at. Okay, how do we need to modify this to work for you? Just like, one time I had a guy that had MS, could not bend that arm because it just shook so much. We had to lock it out. So we had to figure out how we can do it so that he doesn't start smacking his arm all the time. And so it's all those things like that really plays into each person's individual, and how you shoot's not necessarily going to be how I shoot.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot has to do with you know, where you're at physically as well, because you and I both know that using the proper muscles for drawing a bow is not something that you use all the time.
No,
So if you get someone who doesn't, somebody who works, carpentry or something like that, they may have those muscles a little bit more than somebody who sits at a desk all the time, but they're still not used to using them the proper way. But it's just because I used to teach archery a little bit as well, and that's what I always watch for. Okay, how are they moving their shoulders? And if they're only moving one or they're not moving either, it's just everybody's different, like you said.
yeah. And best with those that don't know, back tension, basically taking your shoulder blades and squeezing them together as you're drawing. That's the basic concept behind it. And those muscles, you use them to draw a bow, period. You don't use them for anything else. Because how often do you draw across your face or push straight off to the side unless you're shooting a bow? And, that's, like you said, that's something that you need to look at. And I always tell archers, if you can't slowly draw the bow back, you're drawing too much weight. Crank the weight down.
Exactly.
You can build those muscles. They take a little bit to build. I know when I first started shooting, I was 62 pounds was it, and I wanted to increase it. and I finally 52 pounds where I started, and I finally get up to 60. I can't go more than 68. I couldn't go. I just wouldn't go, and then I was able to go after that once I built those muscles up over several years of shooting incorrectly, of course, until I learned how to shoot correctly, and then I could draw them a little bit easier. But that's one of those things that you just gotta um, do what you physically can do and don't push too much. And I see some draw across their chest and then raise it up, or those that go sky high and trying to draw and pull the arm down, and you're using your weak muscles to do all the drawing. And um, we can make you better if you're open and coachable. We can make you a better shot.
Hmm. Yeah, I tell you, watching Levi Morgan, who is with some of the stuff that he has out there, it's amazing how good he is at just coaching through a video. But he was talking about that. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. I saw something where he was talking about sky drawing, and you know, he's like, you want to draw above the target a little bit, but you want it to kind of come in and it just fall. So you don't want to be up here. You don't want to draw right at it, but you want to be to where everything settles at the same time. Everybody's different, obviously, but I think that's a
Yeah.
good way to tell people to watch how they're drawing.
Well, and a slight up is okay
Hmm.
in certain circumstances. What I teach, instead of standing up straight and drawn, bend towards the target a little bit. Put your arm on the target, point to your target, and as you're drawing back, you're standing up, which is basically taking an arm up and dropping it down a little bit. So you're still coming down, but you're not so high that you got to pull down. Those are drawn real high, pulling down. Have have somebody that's doing that, put your hand underneath it and say, okay, push down. They can't do it because little person can control that arm because you have no strength going down. So why use the weak muscles to draw the bow when you're using, you have the big muscles available to use them. And I, I see so many of them. A lot of videos on hunting shows used to be. I don't watch too many of them anymore, but back when I was watching a lot of them, they would sit there, they come up and they'd draw and all this motion, or they could draw across their chest and then raise it all up. It's like, how are you drawing on that deer and not having it see you because you got all this movement? And that's one of the things that I try to teach is, okay, the deer's looking at you. You have to draw. Can you slowly draw that bow back and get back to your anchor point going slow? If you can't, crank the weight down,
Exactly.
and then after a while you'll be able to get the strength back. And I know after um, my surgery and in car accident, I lost all my strength, and I started off with just some little bands, and the lightest one is the green one, and I started off with I couldn't even pull that back,
Mm,
and then worked up a little bit more, and eventually getting the strength back. And there for a while, this water bottle that what is it, um, 700 milliliters, I couldn't lift it. It was too heavy. Yeah. So you go that, and now you have to build up strength and get back into doing that. And if you could build up doing that, and now I've been able to do all three bands, three different strengths. I've been able to do all three of them now. So it's taken a while. It's been, well, 6 months trying to get back to where I could somewhat try and draw anything. And yeah, it's taken a while, but we'll get back there. So I want
there
to be
you
able
go.
to shoot my bow again.
Yeah, those bands are really good for helping people get back. So
And I do
I
them
had a
just like I'm
couple.
drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same technique as I'm drawing a recurve. I got fingers on there, and I'm actually using it as a training because I'll exhale as I'm drawing back, not completely exhaled, and then as I pull back a little further, tighten those muscles, then I'll finish exhaling. So that's what I'm doing. As I'm drawing a bow back, I'm exhaling, get to my anchor point. I still got some air left, so I can hold and then release as I'm going through the rest of the way, and kind of working on that technique. I don't shoot a lot of recurves. I shoot compounds, but that's still
Mm.
the same thing, except my anchor point's a little bit different instead of
I was
being.
fixing to ask you because the way you're explaining that and the way you're following through, I was going to ask if you're shooting more recurve or longbow. more so than a compound, because just the way you were drawing and feeling that and getting to that release point,
Yeah.
where everything's in the flow of the motion with the recurve or a
I
longbow.
I can't pull the bands like I would my compound because I have a release on it,
Hmm.
and I don't want to put a string on there and hook my release to it because if I accidentally touch that trigger, that band's going to slap my arm.
Yeah.
And that's not going to feel good. So yeah, I do have a recurve that I shoot once in a while, but for building strength, whether I'm doing a recurve or I'm shooting, kind of the difference is between the recurve, my elbow's down here, my elbow comes up a little higher when I start using the compound. So the only difference is a little bit more into the back muscles between elbow slightly down to elbow, up a little bit straight with my shoulders.
Yeah.
That's the only difference I do between them. But
Are you using a finger release or a thumb or index?
I got both. I have a Scott release that has just a little hook.
Hmm.
And the nice thing about this one is I can find that loop without looking at it and hook the loop in. If you have jaws like this one that you have to open and close, you have to look at it because you can't see. Now, my handheld is a Carter Chocolate Addiction, and you notice what is not on the trigger?
Hmm.
There's no knob on it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. And this one here, I can hook this onto my loop, lock it on there, and let it hang off my bow. And now I just find, string, fall down, find my release. And the way I shoot mine is I have my hand, the release buried into my hand. So I don't know if I can put this on. There we go. So I have mine buried completely into my hand. So the trigger sits right at the bottom of the thumb where the thumb meets the index finger and it goes in there. Now in this one, I can actually push as hard as I want on here and it won't fire. So I can put pressure on here and then as I pull through, then it will fire. I just, as I'm pulling through, puts enough pressure on the trigger. And I have my trigger very hard. I have to push hard on it to make that go off. You can't tell how much I'm pushing on it, but I'm pushing
Yeah.
pretty hard on that trigger. I put the hardest spring I can in there because I don't want it to go off as soon as I touch it. I want to be able to pull through. Now my son's Carter is a light trigger. I cannot shoot his because as soon as I put pressure on it, it goes off. But that's what he shoots.
Yeah. It's different for
Yeah,
everybody for sure. So I had a friend of mine who went through a phase where he was trying to learn different ways, shooting a thumb release, and he watched a video, and I can't remember who it was, but so as soon as you're at full draw and everything's set and ready to go, and you don't use your thumb to actually pull it, put the pressure on there,
right,
but slowly open up your fingers to where the thumb makes the trigger go off, but you're not using your thumb. So it's another way to not go, because if you get, it's just like with the index finger. If you
right,
get to where it's just motion, you can still get target panic and use your thumb and cause the same
right,
thing. So if you're doing that and you slowly just release your grip a little bit, you don't know when it's going to go off. And
right.
I think it's, you know, to each his own. Everybody does it differently. But I thought that was when he was explaining that to me, I'm like, that's I can see that working, for certain people.
Yeah. Well, now if I have to force mine, I just make a fist. I just tighten my hand up and it will go off. Um, if for some reason I have to do that, I can still do that. And one of the things on the trigger release is I bury my finger completely on there so it wraps around it. And then I'm not doing one of these. I put pressure on it and still pull through the same motion. And because of the way I have my bow set up, I have a kisser button and then my nose on the string and then the P. Those three things line up. My hand can do anything at once. It doesn't matter what my hand does. So with this type here, I anchor right base at the bottom of the jaw. I mean, the back of the jaw and the ear. There's a little pocket back there.
Hmm.
There's actually a pressure point. That's where I put my index knuckle, my punching knuckle. Now with this one, my hand turns over more, and I put like my ring finger in that same spot because my hand's in a different position. So I'm here to here. My ring finger goes in that spot, and I can't put it quite there. But it doesn't matter because the other three is the same. Whether my hand is what position, it doesn't matter because I have those. other 3 points of contact. And then it doesn't make any difference, which release. I can use either one.
Yeah, all good. I haven't used the kisser button in a while, but I do use the nose button now.
Yeah, well, nose button, kisser button,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, you're gonna feel that on your nose and is in the same spot. The only problem I run into is when you're wearing a mask, you can't you can't feel the kisser button, so you need to kind of have that part open on your
Hmm.
mask. Because if you're wearing a mask that's, an eighth of an inch thick, now your hand is an eighth of an inch over, so now your bow is out an eighth of an inch. So now you're going to be shooting off to the left if you're right-hander, um, shooting to right if you're left-hander, but um, so that makes a difference. And if you're not practicing with that mask on there and making sure you're getting into there good, um, that's hard to practice in the summertime,
Yeah.
putting a big winter mask on.
Yeah, I don't have to wear a mask very often, so I'll put some face paint on occasionally if I feel like I need to, but I don't have to worry about the mask, thank goodness. But um so yeah, I can see how that would be. I remember, trying to use a mask and having issues with it and having to make sure I pulled it down, but nowadays I don't even worry about it too much. So
Well, and they have the mesh ones that's, like for the early season.
mhm.
And, those they really don't, there's not enough of there. You can't even tell that you're touching your face with them hardly. It's when you get the big winter ones. And uh, I got I got a story. I don't think I've told this one, but during COVID, everybody had to have a mask. Well, if I put those stupid cloth ones on, I can't breathe.
Mhm.
I start running out of air. Well, for one thing, if you were in a confined space, you put an oxygen sensor in there with the mask on, it's going to go off telling you that you have to leave. OSHA requirement says you don't have enough oxygen. Oxygen level drops. So I wouldn't wear one. And we go into one of the furniture stores and you got to have a mask. So I go in, I pull out my early season deer mask. It's a big mesh. It's got like eighth-inch holes in it all over. I put that on. That was okay. It was a mask. It
It's
did
it's it's
as much good as the other ones,
yeah,
because those things are just so that you don't, you know, have fluids leaving your mouth. They don't protect anything. Try wearing them
yeah,
in a dusty environment. Your nose plugs up with dust. They didn't do any good. But that's another thing. But
yeah.
it's a mask.
Yeah. It's funny back that first year of COVID when I was hunting, I took a mask with me and just as a joke, I put it on and I took a picture in the tree stand and I posted it. And you wouldn't believe the amount of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious? You're even wearing it while you're hunting?" I'm like, dude, this is a joke. I was being funny. But this one guy would just kept on about it, and I'm like, all right, man, I don't know what to tell you. It was just I did it as a joke. But you know,
Yeah, I have people be seeing in cars by themselves wearing a mask,
hmm
or walking down the road by themselves wearing a mask. It's like,
I still see it.
yeah,
5 years later. It's very
yeah.
seldom, but it's like, but you got to remind yourself too that some of these people, my brother has stage 4 cancer, so I can understand some people having to wear them at certain times. But if you're in a car by yourself, I still don't understand that. But I give them the benefit of the doubt.
No, I can see there's times when if it's cold and breathing in the cold air is hard on your lungs. Put a mask on, it helps warm the air up before it gets into your lungs. And that's something that was be really good for you wearing it.
Yeah,
But I had
you got
one
talking
place
about
I
masks and had to cough, huh?
yeah, yeah. And one place I worked, you had to have a mask on. They give you those stupid paper ones coming in. No, I actually wore one of my hunting masks, one of them with the charcoal filter in it. That's would actually do some good because the charcoal activated filter charcoal will filter stuff going in and out. That's what
Yes.
chem suits are made out of.
Hmm.
They're made out of activated charcoal. And as you're breathing out, it filters you out. It breathes in. So it actually worked, except the only problem is you're breathing that much all day long. You're breathing into your eyes, and the next thing you know is your eyes are start burning. because there's no wind to blow anything away. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
so
I
all
work
kinds of
in
things.
yeah, I work in the commercial air conditioning industry, and it's my main job. And I'm an estimator project manager, so I'm in the office, but the guys in the field when during that time, because we do a lot of medical work, they got to wear safety glasses and a hard hat, and now they got to wear a mask. And there was a lot of trouble with them with their glasses fogging up. And even the anti-fog ones would still do it because, those are not really that great anyway. But we had so much trouble back then. Thank goodness that ended. But man, for
Yeah,
a long time there, the guys were they were trying to sneak it to where they pull it down a little bit to where it wasn't going back up. They were trying to tape it on there to where it didn't, it was just, it was crazy. But anyway, I'm glad all that's gone.
yeah. Now, when I'm working in a, like working on a lathe or something like that, I wear a respirator mask. And, when I'm was doing remodeling in the house, I had one of the N95 masks that had the little port in it so I could exhale,
Hmm.
and then it plugs when you inhale and opens when you exhale. So I could breathe in those, but the mask would just cover everything up. Yeah, I had trouble breathing.
I hear you. I did as well. Yeah. So you got any so you said you're not sure if you're even going to be able to hunt this year, huh? Because of your
Yeah,
injuries?
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. Uh, I've got a couple spots that I can go, not too far from the house, but you know, I haven't even tried to pull my bow back. My hunting bow's 70 pounds. And if I change it to 60, that means I have to reset all my pins.
Yeah.
And now I have another bow that I can crank down to 60. I do have a set of mechanicals here someplace um, that I got one year when I didn't think I was going to get a chance to get everything all ready. And, I could put those on there and shoot those at 60 um, because I'd probably only set up a 20 and 30-yard pin. I can do a
Yeah.
20-yard pin here at the house and probably go back to 30. Um, I live kind of out in the country in a small village, so I could shoot my bow in my yard. I don't too often just because there are houses around, and
Yeah.
I'm shooting towards my garage. So, um, and I'm shooting a 4 foot square target, so I should be able to hit that. But you never know; something breaks or fails. It could go who knows where.
Yeah. I had a release fell on me one time in the backyard, and I heard it hit the fence. And of course, I'm going, oh my gosh, I hope my neighbor's dog's not out, whatever. And when I went and looked, I could not find where the arrow went through. And because I figured once I saw it wasn't in the fence somewhere, I knew something happened. And I finally found where it barely nicked between the two pickets and looked around, didn't see anything. And I came up actually in this room and looked out the window. And I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can see the not glowing something, and I got binoculars. I'm looking, and it was all the way across my neighbor's backyard and stuck in the fence on the other side. And I was like, thank goodness that he didn't, nobody got hurt. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
you definitely have to be careful. So,
yeah. I actually
and
had a release fail on me, broke, and when I was in the indoor range, and I'm drawing back, and I don't point up at the air. I'm drawing back
yeah,
about halfway through my draw, it broke, and of course my arm went up, and it sent the arrow into the ductwork. So there's a 25 diameter hole, 25 64 diameter hole in the ductwork in the mason where the range was, and we was shooting back at 30 yards, something like that. We found the head of my release down at the other end of the range. That's how far it went. And I was only
goodness.
maybe halfway in my draw, so I wasn't even at full 70 pounds. And it broke, went flying. It was a bad design in their releases because when they had that little knob so it would swivel, when they
Oh,
started that, it was so thin, it would not handle very much shooting like that. So a machinist friend of mine made a new piece for it. I still have that release, and then I had a second one, and you Now, the people who listen to them on the podcast, they know the name of this release. You'd never guess what the name of the release was.
What's that?
Fail, fail safe.
Fail safe.
That was the name of the release. It's right on side. It says fail safe. It did not fail safely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But
And
that's why I don't buy cheap releases. I buy the Carters, the Scotts,
yeah,
um, True Balls. You stay away from the really low ends of the True Fires and True Balls. They're not near as good a quality, but um, that so you get the other upper end ones, and they're a lot better. But I like to stay. Stands are another great releases.
yeah, Stan's a great
Uh,
release, and
they're great releases as well,
True Ball
and
that I used them for
yeah,
years. And,
yeah,
I just switched to uh, um, the Ultra View release, and the only reason I did it was because when we were in Canada last year bear hunting, two of my buddies were using them, and so he's like, "Man, you need to try this release," and I did, and it was just so smooth. So I went ahead and bought one, and really enjoy it. But it's amazing how many releases. I mean, you go on Amazon and these copycats for stand releases or UV or True Balls or whatever, and they look almost exactly alike, and they're a quarter of the price, and people trust that. It just amazes me.
yeah.
That you would, especially if you're pulling back a 70-pound bow with something that there's never been proven. And then it's a good way to get some busted teeth and a black eye.
Yes,
You know.
and and there are cheaper options. Um, I know when I had my store, um, TrueFire called me up one time and wanted me to carry their releases. And I said, to start with, I just said, if Walmart sells it, I won't carry it. Period. I'm not going to compete against Walmart on their releases. Now, I did have a low end one that I got from PSE that I think they sold for like 20 bucks. And I was getting them for like 11 or something like that. It was a pretty inexpensive one. And shooting a handheld, they actually had, I don't know which model it is because it doesn't say it, it just says TrueFire on it, but they have a handheld that they thought was, pretty good. So they sent it to me to try out. Well, it has the jaws on it that open and close.
Hmm.
And if you notice what my thumb's doing, how far I had to move my thumb,
Hmm.
all that movement means you feel the movement. What do you think about the movement? And I can shoot this one, but it's just so much movement. I don't. I
I
need to
think
crank
I,
my.
I think I have the exact one. When I first
Yeah,
started switching to a thumb, I think that was one of the ones I bought first, just trying it out.
yeah. No, it was half the price of a Carter.
Hmm. Yeah, it was like 130 bucks or something, I think, when I bought one,
Yeah, yeah. I know
or
being a
100 bucks or
dealer.
something.
Well, when I had mine, being a dealer, I got a little bit better price on them. I don't
Yeah.
remember what they sold for, but I had, I think my cost on it's like 75, where my cost on a card was 150 or 120 or something like that. But uh, I don't remember what they sold for, but that was back 25 years ago.
Yeah, some of
But
these
yeah,
releases they're so expensive now. I mean, I don't remember how much that Ultra View was. I wanted to say it was 279 or something like that.
well,
Um,
I've got
but
it.
it is so smooth.
Well, there's actually, as we're talking about these, I'm bringing up the websites. There's an Ultra View UV button
Hmm.
thumb
Yep,
at
that's it.
Shields for $300.
Yeah. So it's probably about right, 279, something like that.
Yeah. It depends on where you're at too. You might be able to get them cheaper than that, but they've got some that's like $350 for a release. And, of course, this one was selling for, you know, back 25 years ago, only about half that price. That's 25 years ago.
Yeah. That's a lot of
So,
money back then.
yeah, it was. And you could get, the Scott releases even when I was working at Cabela's, for in the 50, $60 range. And, now they're quite a bit more, but everything else is more except wages, of course.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I'll speak highly of that UltraView release. It's so smooth and so good. But those arrows that they're selling now for $250 for a six pack, and or 500 for a dozen. I mean, I get it. They're gorgeous arrows and they're really well made, but they're made by Victory. Uh, But I don't know, I don't know how people can pay that much money for arrows. It's just
Yeah,
not when you got extremely high quality arrows out there for, $200.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've got enough of the PSE Comp Pros in the X Weave that I'll never have to buy any more arrows. I got plenty of them. So,
There you go.
um, and I gotta either lose them or break them because they basically I'm not going to shoot them enough to wear them out. Well, right now I'm not going to shoot anything for a while, but
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
way it
that's
goes
unfortunate.
sometimes,
I
right?
wish I wish you were able to get your strength back before season started, but
Yeah, well,
I hate that for you.
yeah, well, that's kind of the way it goes. But
Yeah.
my son's girlfriend has a crossbow that she bought, and I might be able to borrow hers or buy it from her. She got a really good price on it. So,
There you go.
but
Hey, I mean, switching to a crossbow for a year, nothing wrong
yeah,
with that.
well, and what is archery?
It's
Definition of archery is a stick with a string flinging another stick.
Yeah,
Does a crossbow meet that requirement? Yeah,
it does.
yeah,
It does.
you, you know,
I'll go ahead.
yeah. I've said that before in some places. Archery is a stick with a string flinging another stick. Prove me wrong.
Hmm.
You can't do it.
I'm gonna send you this link real quick, just so I'll send it to you over Messenger. But this is that ballista crossbow that I've been shooting here lately. But it's really neat how you can just pull it back without having to carry an extra rope with you or anything like that. And they have the smaller ones called the the bats is what they originally came out with, and so it's kind of like a pistol
Oh
crossbow.
yeah.
And I actually want to get one of those for bow fishing. Um, but the
Oh, let me go ahead and we're going to share it. See, they just sent it to me here. There we go. Should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Mega bat.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird. Those limbs are just so close to the bow now.
Yeah. I think when it's drawn, I think it's like 9.9 inches or 11.9 inches, something like that. And it probably shows it down below a little bit in those sketches. Yeah, I think that one to the right or something. Yeah, 12.2. Okay. There's a little, oh no, is it 12.2? Oh, that's power stroke.
Yeah.
So you say, I thought it was closer than that. But you see that little T handle down there below at the bottom of that picture? Yeah, that right
Where?
there, that's
Yeah.
actually the handle that you pull to cock the thing. It's all in
Oh
one.
yeah.
You don't have to worry about a carrying a draw rope with you.
Well, something with that short of limbs, uh, impossible to pull with your fingers and hook anything up to it. The ones that you hook to the string, that would be tough because it's so small in there.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I sent you the bat reverse. The one I have is just the Mega Bat regular one. It's not the.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you go up there to the left where it says products. But
There's the bat reverse.
yeah,
I brought it up earlier when he talked about it.
but yeah, those little pistol ones they have are pretty cool too. So, and they're
Yeah.
they're not bad price. I think they're under $300 or something. And a buddy of mine who owns Trifecta Broadheads, he has one of the minis, and he shot a pretty decent hog at 40 yards with it a while back,
Oh yeah.
and with a small pistol grip one. And so, yeah, see the bat reverse is the mini one. That's the small like pistol one, and then the mega bat and the mega bat reverse are the full size crossbows that they have. See, it's like a little pistol grip,
Oh yeah.
and it's only $300. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And let's see, what kind of draw weight does that come in for? Would it meet legal requirements for hunting? I think.
It's
Yeah,
130
130.
pounds.
Yeah, that's legal. Most of them, I
Yeah,
think, is 120 is the
I think
minimum.
so.
Now each
And
state's gonna be a little bit different, but
yeah, three 300 feet per second. For a little handheld pistol grip, that's pretty daggone good. You know.
yeah, a little real lightweight.
hmm They offer them with the bow fishing package as well. But yeah, you can see it to the left there, and
Yeah,
I love bow fishing. So doing it with a crossbow just seems a little bit, you know, maybe not quite as fun to me. But I don't know. I've never tried it, so I've been wanting to get one and give it a whirl because it's those things are just pretty neat. So that Megabat crossbow actually won Crossbow of the Year or product of the what was it? It won something at the ATA show in 2024. I think it was Bow of the Year is actually what it was, not crossbows. It was the Bow of the Year. Yeah, that's the one that I have right there.
and that's only 800 on their website
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
anyway.
And I shoot it out to 80 yards, and I mean, it shoots dimes at 80 yards. So I haven't tried it further than that, but I'm sure it would.
It's got a little expandable stock, or is it a fixed
Yeah,
length stock?
no, it's expandable. You can adjust it. Yeah, pretty cool little.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine just loves them. Yeah, right there it says ATA show 2024 winner.
Oh yeah, let's
Uh,
go down a
uh,
bit more. Yeah.
yeah, a buddy of mine um, has one and loved it so much. It was like, man, you gotta get one. So
And that's not a bad price.
no, it's really not. Really not. And it's cool to not have to worry about carrying a cocking rope with you everywhere you go. And
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them, when I was still at Cabela's, if they have the built-in and cocker, it's normally a crank, and you hear
hmm
click, 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 click as you're trying to crank it. And if you're trying to do that after you get in your tree, that's an awful lot of noise to be making in your tree stand. And
Yes.
then, how do you decock them? Well, you can't really decock them without shooting them. Uh, I had people say, well, those that you pull with your hand, just pull back on it and then pull the trigger and let down on it. Yeah, well, what happens if it slips out of your fingers? You got the arrow off of there, and now you just dry fired your crossbow. And I don't know of any crossbow that can take a dry fire.
Yeah.
Now,
And, I
does
mean, probably
does
handle it,
this?
but it's not good either way.
Yeah.
You're gonna cause damage somewhere.
Now this is in that same category where in order to uncock it, you got to shoot it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I do. Just I always carry a bolt with, just a fill tip on it.
Yeah,
But you can grab that handle because you can't really see it in that picture, but that handle's
yeah,
large enough to where you can get a pretty good grip on it and hold it back with one hand and then but I'm 6 foot, so it's a little bit easier. Somebody who's 5'8" would probably have a little bit of trouble trying to do that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you get your hand above, up here by your head is where it's fully pulled out. Then you got to reach down, squeeze the trigger, and then lower it down. Um, and that's the way we've always done it if we couldn't just shoot it. But I mean, to me, it's easier just to carry an extra bolt with a fill tip on it, shoot it in the ground, and move on. But
no, that's the cocking
yeah,
handle
that's the
there on the
handle
side.
right there. That's the new one that's coming out, the Hawkwing. It actually just has a two finger grip on it. which
And that was
they only have it on the website yet. They've had it on their social media pages, but if you look at the little smaller ones, it actually has that little two finger kind of deal on it. It's actually three because it has a hole in the middle of it, and then there's two little grips for your index and your ring finger to go through.
kind of like a charging hammer on an AR.
Kind of, yeah.
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 That's kind of what it sounded
But
like when he was describing it, but
yeah,
not
if
quite the
you
same. But
yeah, it's hard to see right there, but I'm sure there's a video too of them. I know there's a video somewhere of them
yeah,
cocking the you can go to the resources or something. I'm not sure where it's at. To show videos. Hard for me to see that that's so small.
yeah, there's blog, archery news,
Yeah.
reviews. Here we can
But
see a
anyway,
review.
it's
Oh yeah, there looks like
yeah, there might be a video down there at the bottom.
yeah.
No, that's the smaller one, but it's still the same idea.
Yeah. Well, those
Yeah.
are interested, just go
Yeah.
out to their website. I'll leave a link again, in the description for all these places we talked about
Okay. Yeah,
and
those
makes it easier to find them. And so
yeah, like I said, I
interested in
wasn't
placing
sure
orders.
how I was gonna with my elbow injury if I was gonna be ready, but I think I'm gonna be fine for we got ours open September 27th, so I'll be ready by then, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, ours
But
used to be
I am
September
gonna shoot something
15th.
with that September 15th.
Yeah, and now that's September 1st now is when it opens up.
Oh wow.
They've moved it up a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
early part of
Yeah.
September, it's too hot.
Yeah. Your buck's still in velvet 1st of September?
No, not really.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't seen any in velvet when I've been out in early September.
Yeah. I know last week I had a bachelor group come through on trail camera and uh, both of my shooters were in there and I haven't seen them in probably 7 or 8 days now, and I'm assuming that's what it is. They're getting the velvet off and starting to split up right now. So I got a little 2.5-year-old that keeps coming in every day, and he's still got his, but those bigger deer, I think they're starting to shit. I got a deer that deer that's behind me. I got one in there that looks almost identical to him. I'm assuming he's a offspring of that deer behind me. Not quite as wide, but he still has that same look on the frame. And he's not that deer was 152, so this deer is probably in the 140. So I don't know. I might give him another year, but man, he sure is pretty. So
Yeah,
wait till I see him in person. So I
yeah,
think I know what I think I saw him last year and passed him last year, and this year he just kind of blew up. So we'll see how it goes. But hopefully, hopefully
you
we can
got to
get
just decide to wait or go now. And if you wait,
yeah.
they're going to be a little bit nicer, and wait another year a little bit nicer, and wait another year, and it's like they don't show up no more.
Yeah, that's the problem is last 2 years I had one deer I wanted to shoot and I only saw him twice, and just it's so hard to do that every year. So this year is
Yeah.
like, okay, if I get one that's, what I consider a shooter and it's not him, then I'm just gonna I'm not gonna hold off this year. So especially working with a TV show, it's like
Oh, yeah.
don't not that I have to get footage, but it's nice to to get it occasionally for sure. So,
Yeah, and if it's a nice one, it's still going to make a good video.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I won't be as picky this year for sure.
Yeah.
So, but 'cause we got plenty of does to shoot. I don't, but and that's what I've always said in the past. Oh man, I don't need meat. Let's wait for this guy to show up. But then you get them at 5.5 years old, and it's a completely different animal. They're so smart. So
Yeah. They're getting smarter and they're kind of pushing towards the end of what you can expect them to live anyway.
yeah, yeah. So and that's what. Yeah, he was 5.5, and well, that's what we aged him at, but I never saw that deer. And one of the guys on the lease had one picture of him. So he was running around somewhere else, but he just happened to come through. I actually went to shoot a doe because we normally don't see our mature bucks that early. And I shot him on the 23rd of October, which is early for us, to see a fully mature deer. And so it worked out really good. I'm glad I had my camera set up because he aired year before last, and he went about 15 yards and piled up, so it was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Worked out good. Went to shoot a doe and ended up shooting my biggest bow buck ever, so worked out good.
Well, you never know.
Yeah,
You know,
you don't.
I I go out to shoot does, and if a buck comes by, okay.
Mhm. Yep, but and I'll never pass up a good opportunity to at a mature doe either. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, and here in Nebraska, archery tags are either sex, so it really doesn't matter which one you get.
Mhm.
And you can get two tags in Nebraska, except for the season choice tags, which are antlerless only. And in those, there's lots of those available. There for a while that there was no limit on how many of those you could get. Now there's a limit; they only let you so many of them. But there's quite a few of them, so you can you know if you got an area where you're doing, there's a lot of chance of getting deer, you can get your two archery tags and then get you a couple of antlers tags. And there for a while, the antlers tags were two does. And does come by, fill those. Buck comes by, fill your archery tag. And if you don't fill them, then it's good for the rifle season or the muzzleloader season. It's whatever season you have to use the weapon that's in that season.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, archery used to close during the firearms season here in Nebraska. Those 9 days of rifle, and now they don't close. So from September 1st to December 31st is archery. Now during those 9 days, archers have to wear orange, which makes sense because you got guys out there with rifles
Yeah.
that can't see you because you're all camo. So you need to wear the orange because of that. The weird part is in December is muzzleloader season. If you have a muzzleloader with you, you have to wear orange. If you don't have a muzzleloader, you're an archer, you don't have to wear orange. You can wear your camo, but you're both in the field at the same time.
Mm. Yeah.
I never quite understood that too well. Um, Here, I think it's next weekend is weekend of the 21st is Nebraska's Outdoor Expo at Ponca State Park up in Ponca Hills, which is up by the uh, Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska border. And the game park's going to be up there. And I might just interview one of those guys up there and ask them those kind of questions. It's like, how is this working out that archers are in the field during December wearing all camo, but the muzzleloaders are in the same field but have to wear orange? Now,
Seems like the opposite, really,
right.
'cause, yeah,
Yeah. Now, last
the
year,
archers are the ones that are in danger.
right. Now, last year, I interviewed the guys that do the tree stand safety.
Hmm.
And I've got a podcast I did. I interviewed him for about an hour, talking about all kinds of different stuff. And I'll leave a link on the YouTube video up here someplace on that video that I did for them. I put it on a podcast. But the number one reason archers get hurt is in homemade tree stands. That's the number one cause of injuries to archers.
Yep, I can believe it. When I first started in archery, I made one myself. I think before we started the podcast, I mentioned about the acorn hitting the aluminum arrow. That was a homemade tree stand there.
Yeah,
So yeah, a little scary, but nowadays there's so much out there, and hunter safety systems, they make great products, and the lifeline. I wear even in my 15-foot ladder stands, I have a lifeline now because I've had friends of mine fall. I've never had one pass away from it, but get some serious injuries. But you hear people, falling and dying from it. I did slip one time and my lifeline stopped me. Of course, that oak tree just raked my chest up pretty good because
yeah,
here in Texas we don't have to wear a whole lot of clothes, because it's not cold. But I'd rather have scraped up chest than falling and breaking an ankle or dying. So
yeah. Well, and one of the things he brought up too that just because you're wearing a harness doesn't mean you're not going to die anyway. You got about 5 minutes to relieve the pressure on your legs, or the acids will build up enough that when you do get relief, you still can have a heart attack.
Mm,
Yeah. So that's why all the harnesses and stuff have that little loop that you can drop down to put your foot on to raise up. Now he had an extra lifeline that he used around his waist that he could use to stand up on to relieve the pressure. Because what it's doing is it's cutting the circulation off and the blood flow into your legs. And then once all that acids build up, and then it pumps your heart pumps it through your system. And then you can have, heart attacks from that. And he actually showed a way that you can descend down your lifeline because you're hanging on a lifeline that Persix knot stops you from falling.
hmm
How do you relieve the pressure to move it down? Well, basically, what you do is you tie a whole bunch of slip knots as close as you can, and you put your feet, stand on the top one, and push yourself up, lower the knot, and then hang off that, go to the next one. And when you put pressure on that one, the upper slip knot comes out. So you're going down about 6 inches at a time. And now then you lower your knot, and then you go to the next one until you're all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, but you
And
can't stand there and take the pressure off your
right.
yeah. But I was thinking how you do that because a lot of people like me, I tie the bottom of my lifeline to the bottom of my stand so that it's not just flapping out there. It's kind of
Oh,
rigid. It runs down. I mean, I have it loose. It's not like taut, but at the same time, you can't just pick it up and roll it up.
oh, yeah. Now what you
But
might want to do is take the other end of it and have it up there where you're at. So if you fall, you can always get that and loosen it and drop it down.
yeah,
And then that way you can use that to go down. And the one guy was saying it's like you need to practice it. Hang off your harness. Don't fall because so you can, you got to the rip the
the
filling out of it.
yeah,
Yeah. So hang
which
off
is
there,
there
tie
for a
those knots.
reason.
Yeah. So as you fall, it rips and slows your descent because that
Yeah,
sudden stop is going to hurt you. And practice descending down that string and the lifeline and seeing how much it takes to do it, and you know how much it wears you out. And if you have to stand there for a while, um, that's good. And if your ladder stand is there, then lots of times you can hang on that, you can grab your ladder stand and get back over to that and climb back up. But if your ladder stand falls or your tree stand falls, you have no stand there. You have no pegs or nothing. Um, if you use the screw in steps, they might have been the other side of the tree. So you got to try and work your way over to get to those steps. If you're
yeah.
using the climb on sticks, if you get to those, but who knows?
The older I get, the more I get away from that stuff. And I've gone to just ladder stands and pop-up blinds. Just just for the safety factor of it. The older we
Yeah.
get, the harder it is to climb, screw steps and stuff like that. So, not saying that there's some. I mean, if you're trying to get in on big deer and there's not an area there that you can, you know, put a ladder stand up real quick. I mean, I might go back and do it because I still have a lot of stuff for doing that. But it's just, I don't know. The older I get, the more I worry about safety more than I worry about trying to kill a big deer.
Yeah. I think I've got 3 or 4 boxes of a dozen screw-in pegs that haven't been opened up yet.
Yeah, I guarantee you, there's a couple of dozen downstairs in the garage that I still have. But you've been around long enough. You probably remember, back in the day, we had that one that would just go around our waist. That was
Yep.
it. So if you fell,
Yep.
you were getting broken in half. But I guess at least you didn't splatter your brains on the floor of the forest. But
Well, and I used that for many, many years. And
oh
the
yeah,
way I'd adjust that is I'm at my tree stand and I would sit down and adjust it so as a slight tug pulling up. And then I'd stand up and then I could move around. So if I stepped off the side of this the platform, I couldn't fall past my seat because sitting on my seat, I could feel it pulling up on me. That's how to adjust it. So the only way I could really have a lot of trouble is if the tree stand fell off the tree.
yeah.
And at that time, I had one that had a little T-hook you screw in, put on there, had a chain that wrapped around it, and also put a ratchet strap around the bottom of it well so that it wouldn't move.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly what I did.
and then I'd fold the stand up, and there's extra chain, so I had a block on there. So hunting public property here in Nebraska anyway, the first one in a tree stand has the right to hunt in it. No, if it's yours or not, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
If it's in public property, if you get to it first, you have legal right to use it and they can't kick you out of it. So what I would do is the pegs are all in there to climb up. I'd fold the bottom of it up and loop the chain through it and put a lock on it. So it was locked up because you couldn't use it anyway. You had to have a key to unlock the lock to get it down
There
or
you go.
bolt cutters to cut it. So you couldn't use my stand because you couldn't put the platform down.
That was smart. That's-
But a lot of them that don't have a chain, you got to put a chain around it or something, and that kind of pain. But this one was when it had, that's how you fasten it to the tree. Had a little hook and you tighten it down, and there was no strap you had to worry about mice or squirrels or whatever eating through the strap. Which if it's up for very long, you got to change them because they get bad, and the last
Oh
thing you
yeah,
want to do is your ratchet strap to go away on you.
yeah. The ones I leave permanent in the same spots every year, I usually go back and change those out every once a year. So
Well, the
just
tree expands too, and it gets tighter and tighter, and
yeah.
sometimes you can't get them off because it's just so tight. So you end up having to cut them anyway.
Hmm.
And especially if you let it sit a couple years and don't get to it, and then it's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of do you use any kind of light knocks or anything?
I don't anymore. I have. The last time I shot at a deer with a lighted knock, the arrow caught a branch I didn't see, and the knock went flying somewhere.
Hmm.
So I don't. But what I do instead though is I have a white reflective wrap. They come in 12-inch longs. I cut them in half-inch, half, not half-inch, but I mean half it.
Half the size, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 6-inch piece. So I fletch my 4-inch feathers, and then in front of that, I'll put the wrap on there. And now, like the LED lights and stuff, it just glows. Like the center stripes on your road. It just
Hmm.
glows. Them lights hit it. And I've had one where I could not find the arrow, and I'm looking around, and here it is underneath the evergreen tree. My flashlight picked up that wrap. I'd have never found it without that wrap on there. So all
Yeah,
my hunting arrows have that wrap on there.
there you go. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people you are making arrow wraps now that have that integrated into it. So
Yeah.
I know
And then,
Whitewater Archery, that's where I get my wraps from. They have them. I don't use that because I use lighted nocks, but there's definitely and what is that? Dean, can't think of the name of that. It's gut check indicator. He has those
yeah.
wraps that you can put on your that are reflective as well. So those
Well,
things are definitely out there.
25 years ago, there wasn't a lot of options. Martin Archery had some, and I think one of the places had them, and they had that reflective wrap, and they had orange wraps, and they had all kinds of different wraps. Not like the options you have now.
Hmm.
Oh man, there's hundreds of options now. And I made up a set of arrows for a guy, and he wanted the orange wrap, the full length wrap, and fletched two orange and a red feather on it, or a vein. And that stood out. All that orange on the back of that arrow. Yeah, that arrow definitely stood out.
Yes, I see some like that. I like to use mainly just white, white wrap and white fletching because you can see it, pretty good,
Yeah,
and it looks cool, obviously. But I don't like using too much dark stuff because if even if you don't find it that day, you could find it later on.
yeah,
But if it's too dark and it just blends in, it's gonna be harder for it you know, to find it. But today with lighted knocks as good as they are, obviously some are better than others, but you should be able to find it pretty quick. And if you don't, you know, no telling where that arrow went if you can't find it with a lighted knock on it.
yeah,
But yeah, back in the day, they weighed so much, and I got out of them for a while just because of they were. I was having trouble. They'd go through an animal and they'd turn off, and you're like, okay, where'd the arrow go? And you still have to go find the arrow. But mainly, I like using them just for being able to watch it, and see where the arrow is going, especially video and stuff. But I've been working with Halo Knock for a while now, and they let's see here. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're they're really light. Light is
No, I
not on the
haven't.
market, and they have a where's that little thing? Oh, you can see it. Where did I? Oh, tell you what, just bring a bow up here. So I don't know if you can see that right there, that little button.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little red button there.
Yeah, and so these knocks are the closest to OEM knocks that you can find. And so, and they're reverse plunger technology. So it's not like the nocturnals are where when you push it in, it actually engages that way. I mean, when you push it on, it does engage, but it stays on all the time, no matter what you do. Like if you push a nocturnal on, or some of these Chinese ones that are out there, and you push it too far on, it's going to light up, right? Because it stays in. So that's
Right.
what I mean by reverse plunger technology. So when you let it off the string, the plunger actually moves out instead of in. It moves out, and that's what keeps So you can do that as many times as you want to with a Halo knock, and it's not gonna excuse me, it's not gonna turn on while it's on the string. So, and to turn it off, all you gotta do is just put your finger over that button, and that's all there is to it.
Oh, that's
It's
pretty cool.
so simple. Very, very
That
simple.
solves the complaints I had about most of the other knocks the back when I had them before is you have the knock slightly out of the shaft, and there's two little wires that stick out. So when you shoot, it pushes against the carbon.
Yeah, those are
And
Luminox.
yeah, and the problem with that is sometimes you didn't get good contact with the carbon to make them turn on. And then you had the other ones that, like you was talking about, had that button in there that when when you shot it, turned them on because the force pushed it and turned them on. And that looks like a really good option.
Yeah, the one thing about the others too is Nick Munt with Bone Collector. I teased him one day, he's a friend of mine, but he there was a post that they did, and he's at full draw, and so he's at full draw, and this is what you see, right? You see this light out the corner of your eye, and I'm like, man, who does that, And so
Yeah.
I was teasing him about it and sending him some of these, and he started using the Halo Knox, but yeah, that drives me insane to have that glowing there. But anyway, they're really cool, and they're the lightest on the market. The 204s are 23 grains, and then the micros are 14.6. So it's not. I mean, obviously it's heavier than a regular knock, but
Yeah.
it's not drastic like some of them. I know some of the ones on the market, they're 20 for the micro, and they're like 28 for the 204s, and then so adds a lot to it. But if you sight in your bow for whatever you're using, obviously people worry about front of center and everything else. Um, then you hear me okay? So
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, you're not hearing me?
My computer told me something.
Oh, yeah, I'm not muted. Now I can't hear you.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine now.
Oh, well, I think my arm actually hit the little deal.
Oh,
So sorry about that.
that could be.
So I was talking about the weights of them, and you got to worry about front and center and all that. So it just kind of depends on what you want. You can always adjust your arrow, make the front and center different, or however you want. I don't worry about it too much because I don't shoot too terribly far. But another product that Double Take Archery has is called the Bright Spot target lights. So what you do is you just put these into your target, and so you can shoot late night, late night or late in the evening, and basically, sorry, it's so loud. These things are, but it comes with a little battery, and you just slide it in there, and you stick it into your target, and it gives you something to aim at. And then you can see that it has a little groove in it right there.
Yeah.
So that's for a bag target. When it sticks it in, that'll hold in the bag target. Or if you're in a foam target, it just goes in. Originally, they made them with just a straight shaft, but they came back out with this for the bag targets. But anyway, it's a pretty cool little deal. It gives you something to shoot at, and like I said, I sent some to the guys at Bone Collector, and Nick texted me back, and or I texted him. I said, "How you like those bright spots?" And he goes, "Man, I love it." He goes, "Problem is," he goes, "I can't hit it," because he was trying to hit it.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, "I'm not a good enough shot to hit it." But anyway, they make them really durable, and I don't know if you can see how sharp that point is.
Yeah.
So if an arrow hits it, it's designed for an arrow to glance off of it. Not saying that you
It-
can't break them because I have, but the only times I've ever broken them were which it was in a foam deer target. Regular foam targets like a block or something like that. I've never had any problems with it. But just in those hard targets like the deer targets, the 3D targets. But anyway, that's just a cool deal that Double Take Archery, the makers of Halo Knockout, have as well. So wanted to wanted to show those off a little bit.
yeah. Oh,
Pretty neat little deal. Something if you like to shoot, late in especially down here in South Texas this time of year. I'm not going to go out till it's getting close to dark anyway, because you're going to sweat no matter what time you do it. But it's when it's 107 degrees outside, you really don't want to shoot a whole lot.
no, no, you don't. Yeah, it looks like a bullet point. Well, I used to shoot all the time, and getting Robin Hoods with a bullet point hitting the back of a knock is a challenge.
Hmm.
When I was shooting looms, I used to bust a lot of knocks and unibushings, and I have gotten a few of them stuck in there because it has to be a perfect dead center. Because, like I said, that bullet point, if it's off a little bit, it's going to deflect. And I've gotten uh, two or three of them with aluminum shooting bullet points. Now, combo points or field points, most of those so sharp they'll you don't have to be that accurate with them. But
Yeah, that's one of the things I do like. Let's see, do I have one? I do have one with the ethics field point is it's more of a bullet type point instead of
right,
having that really sharp point to it. And so a lot of times you'll hit another arrow with these and it'll ricochet off and not, you might break your knot, but you're not going to, because yeah, it's cool to Robin Hood, but it gets expensive, especially these
yes,
days. When you're looking at an arrow like this, it's, with a lighted knock and everything, you're talking close to $30 an arrow, right? So
yeah,
you get if you go with a higher end arrow, but yeah, those old style ones that had that real sharp point to them, man, you hit an arrow with it, it's going to damage it. So,
yeah, yeah, and they're even 25 years ago they were expensive.
hmm.
You're looking at probably $6 a broadhead for muzzies, and then you've got your shafts, and then you have everything else, and so you're easily $10 an arrow, and when you shoot at a deer, if you get any part of your arrow back, that was good.
Hmm.
You don't expect to get anything back, whether you can't find it or the deer breaks it or whatever, and so now even now you're looking at easily, like you said, $30 for an arrow that you're going to hunt with or even
Yeah,
target with,
I tell
and
you, some of
it
these
gets expensive.
broadheads these days so expensive, man. You know,
Yeah,
the iron wheels are what, $130 for a 3 pack or something like that. You know,
yeah.
it's
I,
just insane.
I,
But
I that's why I like the
uh,
muzzies.
I'm not telling somebody to go out and buy the little cheap Amazon ones because I don't want to shoot something that you can't trust going into an animal. But at the same time,
Right.
wow, $130 for a 3 pack. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I've been a long time since I
Yeah.
looked, but most of them are in that $50 to $80 for a 3 pack range these days.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know what Muzzy is. I used to shoot Muzzies a lot, but I haven't shot them in years. But the old, um, what was it, the Muzzy SS, I think it was, or something like that, was a one piece that I used to shoot a lot. I shot those at
yeah.
hogs a lot back in the day.
I shoot the MX3, the three-bladed one.
Yeah, that's a tried and true one for sure.
Yeah, the MX4 is what I started with, and on their website they're like $45 for a three pack.
Yeah, see, that's not bad.
Yeah,
It's a tried and true broadhead. You don't have to worry about it. And I know they stand by their warranty too. I remember I shot at a turkey one time, and this is, oh gosh, 20 years ago probably, and up in the hill country of Texas, and hit a rock and damaged it. And they, Muzzy has a lifetime warranty, right? And so, I think I sent them an email or something, or called them, and I'm like, look, this is what happened. I don't expect y'all to replace it, but I wanted to see just because it is. And they're like, yeah, send it to us. So I sent it to them. They sent me a brand new one back, and I'm like,
oh
I hit a rock with that, and I told you I hit a rock with it. They still honored the warranty, so that's pretty. I don't know if it's still like that now, but back in the day,
yeah,
there's so many people out there that try to take advantage of warranties like that. But it was pretty cool because I was 100% honest with them on what
yeah.
happened to it.
Well,
But
I've told this a few times on here. I was at my store when I had my archery store, and it was getting close to hunting season, and I put my broadhead target up, and I was shooting it because I don't shoot broadheads into my backstop because it just tears them up. But I had a broadhead target I was shooting into, and I completely missed it, missed everything. Brick wall behind the target. I hit the brick wall with the Muzzy, 20 yards, 70 pounds, like a 420 grain arrow, something like total weight. I go up there. I'm looking at the concrete block wall with a Muzzy broadhead stuck into it, and the shaft is laying on the ground. It broke
mm,
the insert in half and cracked the shaft back, about an inch or so. The Muzzy broadhead was stuck in the concrete block. I still use that broadhead. It didn't even hurt it.
really. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one I sent back actually it was just because it was at I think it was called the SS if I remember correctly. It was a stainless steel all one solid piece one, and right at the tip, it just barely bent the tip a little bit, and that was the only thing that happened to it. But yeah, they're durable for sure.
Yeah. Well, they advertise bad to the bone.
Hmm.
I don't have any more, but I used to have pictures of bones that it shattered. I caught my arm one time before I knew how to shoot correctly, and it ended up hitting it in the thigh bone, the big thigh bone. And there was the top half, the bottom half, the chunk it knocked out of the middle, and a couple of fragments.
Mm,
It just, it didn't care that bone was there. It just went right through. Now, there's one bone it will not go through. That's that one on the shoulder blade, that up part of that shoulder blade. Nothing goes through there except the gun.
yeah.
So you're not getting anything through there, any arrows of any kind through there. Now the big pad part of it, that's a little bit softer. Well, muzzles go right through there, don't even slow them down. And ribs, it just goes right through them. So you don't have to worry about pretty much anything with that. Now, the problem with those is those bows that they're trying to shoot at 300 plus feet per second, you cannot get very many fixed blade broadheads to fly good at those speeds. Now, I'd be interested to try the swivel ones with a
Hmm.
fixed blade at somebody shooting a little bit faster to see how that affects it. Because that would be, I'm kind of interested in trying some of those out because those sound like they'd be uh, a pretty cool little deal. Now, they used to have blades that actually spun. Back in, oh, this has probably been 30 years ago, but the blade itself would spin.
Yeah.
And I never shot one. I don't think it really took off for
No,
some
I
reason.
know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. And then there's one that was the blades are actually spiraled. I seen one. I don't remember what it was. I
Oh,
seen it. but it's
that
supposed to like,
Crimson Talon, right? Is that the one?
yeah, the blades actually. So what it did was when it going in, it actually cut a plug out of it.
Yeah.
It just tried to cut out a whole big hole out of it, make a big hole instead of the three or four blades.
Hmm.
I remember one of those. I don't remember who it was
I
or anything, but
I think Crimson Talon, they're the ones who made the blades that curve, but I know which one you're talking about. It actually has like three little holes, right? The way it's designed, and it
yeah,
does. It takes just a chunk out. I can't think of the name of it, but I know exactly which one you're talking about for sure. So,
yeah. For me, that seems like it's trying to cut too much, because you
yeah,
got to cut to that hide, and
if you
that's
don't hit
that's
bone, you're
tough.
probably fine. But if you catch any
Yeah,
bone, I don't think that thing's going to penetrate very well. That's what I
yeah.
always thought, but never did try one, so I don't know for sure.
Well, and I like the tip on the muzzies because they are tough and durable.
Hmm.
And I was I shot it. This buck had a rear rack. The one rack come up and just got flat, and then the other one was a little bit more normal. And so I'm cleaning it and I'm doing the back straps, and I was like, clink. I found some metal. I found a broadhead that was stuck in the back strap, and it was one of those kind of cheap ones, just a two-bladed one, and it was real soft, and it hit that bone on that spine, and it just curled the blade over. That's the thing I know. There's no rest of the shaft. It was just the broadhead itself, and that's why it's seeing that. It's like I want something a little bit more durable than some of those just thin two-bladed ones. Now there are some now that are pretty tough. The traditional archers use them,
Yeah,
a little two-blade one, but
yeah.
it's all shot placement anyway.
It is, but the one of the things I like is some of these guys that are or these broadhead companies like there's a company here called Trifecta in Texas, Trifecta Broadheads, and um they're doing these thicker blades and they're single bevel and they're making these broadheads more durable. And actually, John Lust did a test on one of the trifecta broadheads, and it scored. At that time, it was the highest scoring broadhead that John had ever done. I think there'd been one since then, but I think it scored like a 97.4 or something on. John does a great job on testing broadheads and doing that. But yeah, because if you're going to spend money on a broadhead, then you've got to yeah, that's the blender broadhead. And right now he's changing some design up right now, but a little bit on the ferrule. But you can see that's a single bevel broadhead,
Yeah,
and so I think I shot three or four animals with them last year, and they all went within 40 yards. But he calls that one the blender, and basically, I mean, when it goes through, it's just being single bevel, it's helping turn the arrow through the animal, and it's just ripping through there. And you can see how thick those blades are. I can't remember off the top of my head,
yeah.
what the
They
diameter or what the
they
thickness
look
is, but
thick.
yeah, they are so durable. But yeah, he's like I said, right now, I don't think anything's even. I think he's saying sold out on everything right now, but um, because he's having to change something on the ferrules, having to change, but anyway, good solid broadhead. There's that blender right there in the center. That's the one that for a fixed blade. That's what I've been shooting, and does a really really good job. But it's back to my point is if you know these guys that work blue collar workers, you go out and you're going, man, $60 for a pack of broadheads, you know, it's hard for some guys to buy more than just one, right? Or one pack. So
Right.
if, if you if you go through, you want to be able to use it a couple of times, and that's what I like about
Right.
these, that's why, with Rob, the head that he made, I'm like, somebody can go through and they might have to, go through and put a little bit of an edge back on it, but that broadhead's going to be good for several shots. So, um,
Yeah.
then these ones that you just hear about, they're just falling apart, one shot. Which I mean, some guys like a buddy of mine, he's like, I'm one and done. I don't care if the broadhead's in good shape or not. I'm just, that's just not the way he sees it. He's gonna put a broadhead on there. He's gonna trust it to go through one animal, and he's gonna throw it out. And but I know some of these. I mean, back before I got into the hunting industry, you know, when I went to Bass Pro Shops or I went online or somewhere to try and buy some broadheads, it was that same thing. It's like, man, I want to buy something that's durable because I want to be able to reuse it again,
Right.
or at least have, replaceable blades that are fairly inexpensive and easy to do. But and especially down here, because, there's years I'll shoot 20 hogs in a year. That's a lot of broadheads to go through.
Yeah.
So you get, I like to try and shoot, multiple animals with one head. But and I think that's with everything. With arrows, you don't want to buy a cheap arrow because you want to be able to reuse that arrow. Because some people don't buy a dozen every year. Some people can't afford to do that. So you know that's what I like to these companies that are in ethics archery as well. Durability and being able to reuse stuff and not have to worry about how much it's going to cost you this year. Because every year before season when I was younger, especially when I first started bow hunting, it's like, okay, I got to buy broadheads again. I got to buy a license. I got to do this. You got to do that. And especially the younger guys, they may not be able to afford to do that every year. So just
Yeah.
just my just the way I think. I try to think about that, and I try to think about that too. Like when we work with partners, you know, uh, you don't want to. I don't want to be partnered with a broadhead company that charges $130 for three of them because that's not even though that Broadhead's great, it's durable and whatever, the people who watch our TV show, maybe they can't afford that. 99% of
Yeah.
them probably can't, you know. Um, so that's the way I like to look at it. And I
Yeah.
think again, it goes with everything. So
Well, and you want to look at what you're getting for what you pay for, and if you can't, be sure that if you make a decent cut or a decent hit, that broadhead's going to stay together long enough to do its job.
hmm yeah. And there's so many companies out there now. You hear people, I see it all the time with lighted knocks, obviously because I'm paying attention to that, and I see it with broadheads. These guys wanting to go on Amazon and get these aftermarket rages or whatever, and oh yeah, I'm getting six for $30. To each his own, but that animal deserves to make sure that you put him down, you know, uh,
Right.
ethically, and if you're taking a chance just because something's a little bit more expensive, then maybe you need to reconsider what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I'd rather pay 35 bucks for, because there's some out there that are really good for 35, 40 bucks. I think you said 45 a while ago for those muzzies. That's a great
Yeah.
broadhead. It's only three, but it's more durable. It's trustworthy. That animal, you know, you look at that animal behind me and you're like, why take a chance on wounding an animal with something cheap? Blade breaks when it hits the animal or something and then go all the way
Yeah.
through and then the animal suffers. No, we need to make sure that we're treating that animal the best that we can, you know.
Yeah. We don't want them to suffer. We want the quickest kill we can get so they're not suffering. That's not what we're there and about. It's like we need to do it as cleanly as possible. And
Absolutely. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
well, we had all kinds of stuff we talked about today, didn't we?
We did. We went we
Yeah.
went we went for quite a ride for sure. All
Yeah.
different areas, but well, it was good to finally catch up with you. I know
Yeah.
we tried for a couple months and my schedule was just really busy and then the other day I just my mother-in-law passed away and we had some stuff going on here and I just completely forgot. So I apologize for that. But I'm glad we finally got to catch up today.
Well, things happen. Yeah, things happen, and it's that's just part of the game, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. But anytime you need a guest to come on, holler at me, and if we can make it
Okay.
work, man, I'll be glad to come back on, and um, um I'll mention to some other guys about maybe trying to come on with us.
Yeah. And if you talk to anybody that wants to come on, just send them the link
Okay,
to book a call. And I'm open to talking about pretty much archery related to start with, and go from there.
there you go. Well, that's it. Most of the guys I work with are archery related, so that's
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Well, my name is Roy Canterbury. I've been your host on Arch Talk 101 with Noel Evans, and we had a good story to cover all this exciting equipment out here that I didn't know about, and I'm kind of excited about some of this new stuff coming out, and I'm gonna have to check some of it out when I get back shooting again, and we'll just catch you on the next one. Remember, you can watch this podcast on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, or probably the best place is to go out to Archer Talk 101 podcast or Archer Talk 101 Facebook group and join that group because you'll have them there. And then I'm building archtalk101.com. So you'll be able to watch right now. You'll be able to go to podcasts and then watch the podcast there. They're all linked in there. And you catch the audio version on Spotify and wherever you catch your podcasts, as well as you can go to audible.com and you can watch it or listen to it there free. And it's been great talking with you, and we'll see you on the next one. And it's been really great talking with you.
Appreciate it, Roy. You have a good
All
one.
right. All right. Bye.
Bye.